Hello, my name is Bastiage and welcome to my perspective on Dev Squared. I want to start off by saying that I have beaten all single player missions and have not done any of the multiplayer missions because this game only supports local multiplayer. The reason I've decided to not dive into any of the local multiplayer is because many people simply can't play local multiplayer games. As such, I have decided to look at this game only from a single player's perspective. First off, what is Dev Squared? Dev Squared is a puzzle game in which you have to move blocks to a location on the map. This is done by traversing several obstacles in a level. Let's start off with talking about the game mechanics. You have a red block and you have a blue block. As a side note, in some levels you will control multiple red blocks and blue blocks at the same time. You move the blocks by using the WASD and the arrow keys on the keyboard. This, however, is also where my first problem comes in. Other than the difference in color, nothing really tells you which keys you have to use in order to move these blocks. I've had a lot of issues with moving the other block instead of the one I'd want to move because I instinctively would use the WASD keys when a block would be on the left side of my screen. But it would eventually turn out that I actually had to use the arrow keys to move the block I saw, which caused me to fall off the level or activate a switch that I did not want to activate, which would then usually result in me dying and having to reset the entire level. And when you die and reset the level, you have to go through the exact same movements as you did before, hoping you don't fuck up this time. I would have really liked it if they had given the blocks some kind of indication of which keys you use to move them. Maybe like a little WASD or arrow graffiti on one of the blocks to show like, yeah, you have to use the arrow keys for this. Now, what about the obstacles you will face in the game? You have obstacles you can see at first glance, but there is also obstacles that are hidden until you press a switch or you move on somewhere. Which is also something I really disliked, because often I would step onto a switch, only to see it would activate some spikes on my guy, or it would move one of the stationary blocks in the level, which would promptly sweep my guy off the edge, having me restart the game all over again. I would be fine with this if the game did not make it a thing to keep track of the amount of deaths you make in a level. It also grades the amount of deaths you have by like, you did well, you did poor, you did really bad. If you hide cheap deaths in this game like that, like you activate a switch and you just instantly die without really having anything to protect against it, then I don't think you should grade people at the end of a level as in, oh, you died this many times, that's bad.
Chances of witnessing an AI performance like that are 0.00729%.
You will traverse levels by activating switches or moving your...
Omnicorp OS version 10 is available. Would you like to download it, David?
Okay. Iris, could you please disable upgrade reminders?
Upgrade reminders can only be disabled by testing technicians level 2 and above, David.
You know, those guys get all the cool perks.
You will traverse levels by activating switches, moving your blocks in certain positions and even moving the blocks on top of each other every now and then. There's also translucent colored blocks. There are solid to one type of block, but you can move through them with the other. You also have lasers, which work in a similar fashion. They will kill one type of block, but they will not kill the other color. All the levels will contain all these kinds of obstacles and mechanics. And by traversing these mechanics in certain ways, it forms a puzzle for you to solve. However, the biggest difficulty I've had in this game is that they decided to add physics into this game. So instead of just moving from one block to another block, they decided to give blocks acceleration, which really complicates your movement. Way more than it actually helps you. It also makes fitting into smaller areas quite annoying, as you happen to be just misaligned, and you really have to just wiggle yourself into a spot. But the actual worst part about having these physics is that it makes the game incredibly easy to cheese. I've had a lot of levels that I skipped the puzzles in because I could simply make the physics bug out and make one of my blocks just go places where it shouldn't be. I'll edit in a little part from my stream where I use the physics to just boost on top of the level and basically ignore the entire puzzle. Because of the additional layer of physics, you can also move the blocks in what seems like unintentional ways. I've had it several times that I could push a stationary block by using some diagonal movement. That seemed really unintentional to me, as it would trivialize the puzzles when I did it. Other than these issues, the levels are actually designed pretty well. And they can actually be pretty tough. However, as I stated before, I'm not sure if the difficulty comes from actually being well designed or just struggling with the controls every now and then. Now let's talk about the story. Every time you start and beat a level, two characters will have a small conversation. This will usually just be pop culture references, memes, or just jokes, which you've probably heard before, to be honest. One of the characters is a technician guy. He has to monitor the AIs which you are controlling. The other character is an AI that appears to be monitoring the guy that is monitoring you. There isn't really like much story in this game because these two characters just seem to interact with one another, just cracking jokes every now and then at each other. Now let's talk about sound design. I really enjoyed the background music in this game. It's very calming and it reminded me a lot of the soundtrack of the game Dustforce. It's really nice, it calms, and it just perfectly fits with a puzzle game. However, there is also a reason I played this game with the SFX volume muted. When you beat a level by having the robots on the circular pad, it will play some weird beeping sounds that are just incredibly obnoxious. I will edit this in, however, I pre-warn you, please turn down the volume a little bit, because this is really annoying. As you've heard, that is really annoying. Now let's talk about performance. The game ran pretty poorly while I was streaming, but after streaming it turned out to run just fine. So if you are planning on streaming this, I would keep that in mind. However, it's not like the FPS is terrible, it would still be around 60. But when I was not streaming, it would stay consistently at a 144 FPS, which is the max refresh rate of my monitor. The game also does not have a borderless full screen option, which is pretty much the norm in indie titles nowadays. One more thing before we head to the conclusion. A lot of people are reporting that the game is a lot of fun in couch co-op. So if you are looking for a local multiplayer experience, this might be a good game for that. However, I only played the single player of this title. As such, I cannot say that the single player alone is enough to justify the price. Concluding. Death Squared will keep you occupied for a few hours with its single player levels, but the difficulty of these levels stem mostly from frustration by controls and hidden obstacles. Unfortunately, I can't say I recommend this title for its full price of $20. The game just feels too easy to cheese and is just too clumsy to control to justify that price. I would recommend, if you want to pick this up, to do it when it's on sale. But that's been it for me today. I want to thank you for watching. If you like this video, give me a like. If you think I'm just completely wrong, give me a dislike. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.